Hello everyone and welcome. Today's video is going to be a haul of some fragrances that I've either purchased or received over the last few weeks. These are fragrances that I'm pretty excited about. Some of them I've been wearing over this past period and some of them are pretty new to me. So I am looking forward to sharing them with you in this video. If this is your first time on this channel, hello, my name is Anya. I love fragrances. I talk about them here every single weekday, Monday through Friday. I also publish additional content on other social media platforms under the username ANECHKAFRAGRANCES. If you're interested in learning more about topics like fragrance history and being a little bit If you're interested in learning more about fragrance, including fragrance history, I do have a podcast called The Fragrance Report. I publish a new episode every Wednesday, both on YouTube and on Spotify for you to watch. So with that being said, I have quite a few fragrances to share with you here today. It's going to be a really good, I would say, selection of fragrances, and some of these I have been waiting for a very long time, and there are also some new brands, or like one or two new brands thrown in here as well, that I really do think you should keep an eye out for. So let's get into it. First up, we have a fragrance from By Corel. This is a pretty new brand. I do have an affiliate partnership with them, so I do have a code with them, and they did send me this bottle. This is called Sharing Concept, and what really intrigued me about this scent when I was looking at the note pyramid was the fact that there was actually wine in here. So that immediately was quite intriguing to me. And to be quite honest with you, I don't smell it very overtly. What this fragrance really reminds me of is a really soapy version of a grapefruit scent. And that's what this fragrance really reminds me of. So this is giving like a luxurious soap with some grapefruit. Grapefruit here is very photorealistic. You can practically like smell it from the beginning to the dry down of the fragrance. That to me is like one of the most prominent notes in this fragrance. But let's go into the scent pyramid. So this fragrance has notes of orange, black currant, grapes, and wild berries, a heart of rose petals, grapefruit, red wine, and grape leaves, as well as divana, and then a base of amberwood, vetiver, and plum. This perfume, as I mentioned before, does come off smelling rather soapy to me, and I definitely do get those green accents, and I can kind of see where they get the rose petals from as well. I can kind of smell that. It smells like very vegetal. It smells quite green with the combination of that citrus, but there also is a very prominent soapy undertone to this fragrance, so it does smell like a luxurious hotel soap kit or something like that. It just smells very soothing and very relaxing as well. So I have been wearing this fragrance to bed over the last few days, and it definitely is one of those fragrances that's a little bit more subtle. It has a beautiful sillage, but it's definitely not a heavy hitter. It's one of those more subtle grapefruit fragrances, but it is a very photorealistic scent, so I'm looking forward to trying more from this brand. Another brand that I'm really excited about and actually was wanting to try for a really long time is Khair. This was a brand created by the TikToker Sihem, and I love her content so much, and when I found out she was coming out with the brand, I was very curious about it, and now they have 4 fragrances in their collection, and I was able to get their kind of like, I wouldn't call this a discovery set because like these are like 20 milliliter sizes, but I would say, yeah, this is kind of like your introduction to the brand. This is the closest thing that they have to a discovery set at the moment. So they have these 4 fragrances here, and I will say there were some issues with fulfillment with this brand, and the way they handled it was absolutely amazing. I will say this, originally when I had made my order, I had wanted to have a few travel sprays. I think like originally when I made my order, this set wasn't even available. But unfortunately, due to some fulfillment issues, I got the wrong order, and luckily I was able to send it out and sort it out. But then I was able to credit my original order to actually getting this set, which I do think is a fantastic deal. So I was really happy to get this, and yeah, it was a little bit of a touch and go situation for a while, but they were so professional. It was really easy for me to get through to them. They were super responsive, super professional, and I definitely think a lot of times with influencer brands, especially when you have such a big audience base right off the bat, it can be really tricky for a brand who's just like growing or starting out. But the way you handle some issues like that really speaks to the people behind the brand and their intention. And honestly, even though there are some issues, the way they handled it is always going to stick in my mind because they did it with so much professionalism, so much attention to detail, and they were absolutely wonderful throughout the entire process. So I'm going to go through all these fragrances chronologically from the first fragrance to the most latest one, and I'm going to go into notes in just a moment. But the first fragrance they come out with was actually called 7 Minutes, and this is supposed to be like a caramel vanilla milkshake kind of fragrance. Then Slow Sip was the next one, and this one actually went a little bit viral. People were really hyping it up. And then we also have Pretty Please. Now this is the one I was really excited about because it actually has a note of red wine, and I've been looking for like a good red wine fragrance. I have a few that I like, but I was specifically looking for a red wine fragrance that mimicked like the dry, almost bitter nature of a red wine, and I was excited about trying this for that purpose. And then finally we have their newest one, Guilty Pleasures. So I'm going to go into the notes and I'm just going to give you my surface level first impressions review. Let me tell you that I haven't had a chance to do like a full-on wear test of each of these 4 fragrances, so the information I'm going to give you is based off of my initial impressions and maybe like wear testing them a few times, but not super often, or like not a lot. So these are going to be like my first initial impressions. So first up, 7 Minutes was actually the fragrance that I was a little bit hesitant about, but it surprised me in the best way. And the reason I was kind of hesitant about it is because, as I mentioned before, this is a vanilla and caramel fragrance. And if you've seen a few of my videos lately, you would know I've become incredibly picky about vanilla and caramel combinations because more often than not, those combinations end up being very redundant. And as someone with a 100+ bottle perfume collection, I don't need to have another fragrance in my collection that smells too similar to other fragrances. So with that being said, let's get into the notes. So we have top notes of caramel and milkshake, a mid of vanilla, rose, violet, and marshmallow, and then a base of musk, amber, woody notes, and ambergris. So with this, they could have just like led with the vanilla caramel combination and just done just that, but they added so much complexity in here. It does have like that milkshake smell about it, but you can definitely smell the florals as well. And I think that's what makes this fragrance very intriguing. And you can also smell like the slightly ambery base as well. I love the fragrance in the dry down especially. This is so good. But even in the dry down, like I think the vanilla and caramel sugariness kind of takes a back seat. And then you get like those other more complex notes to the point that this ends up smelling like amazing in terms of the sillage. I remember like testing these fragrances out, and the sillage on this one was one of my favorites because it smelled so delicious. Yeah, it's starting to come through. I don't know what particular note I'm getting, but I think I'm getting kind of like the ambery, woody. I'm definitely getting like the rose and violet, and the marshmallow starts to come. So it's interesting because this fragrance starts off so sweet, but then like as it dries down, that sweetness, it stays in to some degree, but it starts dissipating, and you definitely end up getting like more of the florals. That's what I really love about this fragrance. There are florals embedded into the perfume, and you can really smell that. And then eventually you start getting the woods, which is also something I really love about this fragrance. So in reality, even though when you look at the fragrance at a surface level, you might think, or I thought, that it was going to be a relatively simplistic play on a gourmand fragrance, this is so much more complex and intriguing. So I'm looking forward to trying this out more to give you like my rundown on what this fragrance smells like. But this was definitely a very pleasant surprise. So next up is Slow Sip, and this is the fragrance that really went viral. This is inspired by a cocktail and is supposed to feature some tropical notes paired with things like coconut, but it's supposed to be like in a very like light and fizzy cocktail-like way. So for that reason, I knew that I would have, I think, like a positive experience with this fragrance because so many people really loved it, but I was of course curious about smelling it myself. So this fragrance actually does feature mango, and after like the whole mango smoothie craze of last summer, when it comes to a mango fragrance, I always find myself to feel some kind of trepidation, if I'm being totally honest. But this perfume is an ambery woody fragrance with top notes of cognac, lime, cardamom, mango, and mandarin, as well as coconut, a mid of black pepper, rum, cypriol, caramel, lily of the valley, and violet, and then a base of ambroxan, which I love, amber, moss, musk, vanilla, and sandalwood. So to be completely honest with you, I haven't had a chance to wear this fragrance to its fullest extent. I just smelled it on first impression and I do really like it. The mango is not nearly as prominent as I was personally expecting. It's definitely a very well blended fragrance. And I can see this being kind of like an elegant tropical fragrance. It doesn't lean as tropical actually as you might be expecting based on the scent pyramid. It's actually rather ambery and woody. So it's an intriguing perfume. It's definitely not something I've smelled before. So I'm looking forward to testing this out some more and giving you a bigger picture of what this is, or like kind of like what you can get with the experience. So this next one is Pretty Please, and I was actually really excited about this one. I was this close to blind buying this fragrance, and that's how much I was excited about it. And I'm obviously glad I did not, because it's nice to be very considerate and to be very mindful when it comes to blind buying, especially when it comes to full bottles. But the thing that was like kind of preventing me from blind buying is I wasn't sure, like I mentioned that this fragrance is a wine inspired fragrance, right? But this also has like some ambery notes and some cherry, and I was scared that this would turn out into like one of those ambery cherries that we all are super familiar with and we all quite frankly have in our collection. I mean, unless you don't. And if you don't, then okay, that's nice, but like a lot of us have ended up with that kind of scent profile repeatedly in our collections, and that's not fun. So I was kind of nervous about that, but I am very happy to say that this fragrance is incredibly unique. And let's get into the scent pyramid. So we have notes of cherry, plum, almond, and red wine at the top, a mid of heliotrope, magnolia, jasmine, and orris, and then a base of vetiver, tonka, white musk, labdanum, cedarwood, sandalwood, and oud. I was so intrigued by this fragrance when I smelled it because this smells like nothing else I've ever smelled in a perfume before. And it's kind of interesting because I definitely would say that this is kind of like an almost bitter, very like, I wouldn't say it's like a sweet cherry fragrance. It's not that. This is like the kind of cherry and wine fragrance that Morticia Addams would wear. Like full stop, if Morticia Addams was in a fragrance, it would be this. And I would say specifically, I'm talking about like maybe, what's her name? I forget her name. So like, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. Angelica Houston. Angelica Houston's version of Morticia Addams would wear this fragrance, in my opinion. It's dark, there's a bit of modernity to it. I think that the cherry here kind of like almost provides like a cosmetic accord. It's a very intriguing fragrance. Yeah, it's an incredibly intriguing fragrance, and this might turn you off the fragrance, and I'm urging you to keep an open mind. But this fragrance to me has like the same kind of like bitter quality that you would find in like acrylic paint. Like think a paint like in a paint tube. That's almost what this fragrance reminds me of. And I don't want to sound like, I don't want it to sound as if I'm saying that this fragrance smells bad. To me it doesn't. I really like it. I think it's very intriguing, very unique. I can't wait to do like a full, several day wear test on this, because like I feel like there's so many nuances to this fragrance that I've yet to experience. But I really like this a lot. I think this is really interesting, very intriguing. Definitely not like a cookie cutter cherry by any means. And this is certainly not a fragrance I would blind buy at all. Like if you can get the travel spray, they have a 10 milliliter travel spray available on the website. See if you can get it in this set even. Do not blind buy the full perfume bottle, because there's a high chance you might be disappointed. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not one of those, this is not a cherry you've ever smelled before. It's actually going to be one of those fragrances that's very unique. So I caution you with that in mind. But I really, really like this fragrance so far. I'm very much enjoying it. So next up we have Guilty Pleasures. So this is one of their newest fragrances. In fact, it's the newest fragrance in this entire set. And it's really kind of hard for me to find the note list online. I think at some point I did have access to it. But this is essentially a chocolatey fragrance with vanilla. And I'm thinking, I sprayed it on my arm just now. I'm thinking there must be some kind of floral in here, maybe jasmine, but this perfume is just like a cozy chocolate gourmand. So yeah, it smells absolutely delightful. Yeah, I'm starting to get like some floral sweetness. I definitely think that's a floral sweetness. And let me do a quick ranking for you to kind of give you an idea as to what I like the most from this brand. Keep in mind, I actually like all these fragrances, but I'm still working through them and I'm still finalizing my thoughts for you guys. So the bottom 4 is not necessarily going to be like the worst one, but this is just based off of personal preference. So I would say the one that I would put in the 4th place would be Guilty Pleasures, and this is just a personal biases because I already have some other similar chocolatey perfumes like this in my collection, but I do really like this one a lot. Next up would be Slow Sip. I think I've just not had enough time with this. I like it. I think it's really intriguing and wonderful, but I think I need some more time on this to really get attached to it. And then I also really liked 7 Minutes. I was so surprised by how much I liked it. I was not expecting to like it this much, but it takes you on a journey. It's a very intriguing fragrance. And then first, last but not least, is my favorite, Pretty Please. This is so intriguing, like an edgy cherry fragrance, but also like, I think that there might be some leatheriness in here as well. It's such an intriguing cherry. It's nothing like I've ever smelled before, and I've really been intrigued by this one. So yes, anyway, those are the hot fragrances that I bought, and if I'm mispronouncing it, I am so sorry. I'm doing my very best. I do not speak Arabic. I am doing my best, but there are some other fragrances that I did receive in PR, so let's talk about those. I want to tell you about Jani from Sora Dora. Sora Dora is becoming one of my favorite niche houses at the moment. They have some amazing fragrances, and they do gourmands very, very well. This particular fragrance is actually a gourmand apple tart based fragrance, and it's supposed to also, it literally is so strong, I can smell it from here. Like, I can literally smell it, didn't even spray it. It's supposed to be a fragrance that has apple, that has cinnamon, a bit of osmanthus to give like some floralness to it, and then some, there's also baked apple. Yeah, baked apple. And there's also like the dough that you get from the apple tart. It's a very intriguing fragrance, but what I like about what I like about this the most is the fact that this is a perfume where you can smell the dough. So it's not just a caramel apple fragrance. It is like the whole apple tart in the most interesting and intriguing way. It's also a beast mode fragrance. A little bit truly goes a long way. So Sora Dora's Jani, this is definitely not a brand new fragrance, but I'm really happy to finally have the full bottle. And you can also get a discount on this perfume and all the other Sora Dora fragrances, including the Discovery set. If you want to use the code Anya10, that is an affiliate code, I would definitely recommend you try out that code by using it on the Discovery set. So next up, I have a fragrance by J.U.S. This is called Spritz Love. This is, again, a little bit of an older fragrance, but I was really intrigued about this, and I was looking forward to trying it. I'm so glad I finally have it in my collection. This is a perfume with bitter orange, vetiver, and I believe oud in the base, but quite frankly, I get mostly the bitter orange, and it ends up smelling kind of like a Campari Aperol Spritz-esque perfume. It's a very intriguing scent, and if you want to smell like a kind of like a more unique gourmand, I feel like this is a really good one and a really intriguing one to try out. So yeah, I've really been enjoying this one, and I've actually been wearing this a lot. Yeah, it's a beautiful fragrance, a very unique take on a citrus. And again, this is J.U.S. I do have a discount code with them as well. You can save some money on this fragrance and the Discovery set, but I would recommend getting the Discovery set first. But yeah, that's it for this video. Those are all the fragrances that are new to my collection that I'm super excited about. Let me know, is there anything that stands out to you, or are there any brands in this video that you really want me to focus on, whether it be through doing more content with these perfumes or just like telling you more about the other fragrances in the line. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.